I had my first child at 16, okay? And I was counted out by a lot of people, even people in my family. I had more kids after that. And every time, I was counted out. I always read urban fiction. I literally wrote my first book on pen and paper, like 65,000 words. I didn't know where I was going with it. I just knew I wanted to write.
I am Shalane, aka Author S.Yvonne. I am an author, I'm a publisher, I am a sister, I am an awesome friend. I am a mother of 6. I am a teen mom. I was pregnant with my first child at the age of 16. She's actually going to be 21 this month. I have 4 other daughters, ages 18, 17, 12, and 11. I have a son, finally. I did not think I would be having a son, but he's here. He is going to be 4. Terry Woods is the author of True to the Game. And I was intrigued with the book, with the storyline. It's one of my all-time favorites. That book was also one of the motivational books for me, which encouraged me to write urban fiction. I started writing at a young age, but I did not start with urban fiction. I actually started with poetry, but it wasn't soft poetry. It had like a touch of rap to it, you know, like get mad at your little boyfriend back in the day and I'ma diss you. And oh my God. And the diss was like in a poem form and it wasn't very nice, but everything like rhymed. So that's where the love of writing, you know, that played a major role as well. And it went from there to short stories, just like short urban stories. And I hid it from everyone because I'm like, you know, that was just like my thing. That's just something that was like my little secret. So I always knew that I had the talent. And my love for urban fiction started back, I would say, about 10, 11 years old. A lot of times, you know, me and my friends would tell my mom we're going to the library to study, and I'd be back in the urban fiction section, just like reading all the urban books. But I didn't tell my mom that I was reading all the urban books, and I wasn't bringing them home either because I had no business reading. I had no business reading them, but I know it doesn't even matter because we're here now. So no, I wasn't writing before my daughter. I think it took off more after my daughter. Like I wasn't writing full books, but I was writing my short stories. That was just like an outlet for me as well, on top of having a passion for it. What it was like growing up in my household, because my mom, she worked, there were times where she had 2 jobs. So it was one of those things where you're the oldest. So you got to make sure you cook dinner. You got to make sure you comb your sister's hair and make sure your little brother have a bath and make sure everybody's uniforms are ready. And me and my mom are good now. But I know I opened up and I told her, you know, as a young child, it's a lot, you know, for you to take on all of those responsibilities. And so I kind of resented her a little bit for that. But then as I got older, I realized that mama was only doing what she had to do. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't easy. We had fun, but it wasn't easy. I actually have a burn on my leg that I had to do therapy for because I was cooking for my siblings and their bad asses is running in the kitchen, and I had a pot of hot grease. I had just made something, maybe some chicken or something, and I was trying to move it from the stove, and one of them ran into me, and it just, ooh, I wasn't pregnant with my daughter yet, so I was about 14, and it just blistered up real big. And I had to go to the emergency room and they had to pop it, and then it peeled, and I had to do therapy for it so it wouldn't mess my skin up too bad. They were bad, okay? And after that, I was like, you need to get your kids. When I got pregnant, how most teens are afraid, I wasn't really afraid because I'm the oldest of 4. And I had a hard-working mom. So I kind of played a mother figure to my siblings, you know, because mom had to work. And so when I got pregnant with my own child, it wasn't a fear of, oh my God, it's like I just felt like I've been doing this already. Like, I can do this. Like, in my mind, I can do this. But you didn't think about the financial aspect. Like, you have to have money to take care of a child. And, you don't, at that age, I didn't think about that part of it. I was definitely reading. I never stopped reading. The only thing that changed was the scenery. I wasn't going to the library anymore, sitting there all day. I was going to Barnes and Nobles, and I was checking out books and, returning them. But my love for reading, no matter what went on in my life, no matter what trials, I never stopped reading, and I never gave up my dream of wanting to be an author. Being a teen mom, though, like I said, I had to, experience it. And then, like 2 years in, that's when I just was like, you know what? I know this is what I want to do, because I do want to make a change. And, I'm glad that I did. I wasn't 100% all in. There was still more obstacles and trials that I had to overcome before I was able to. So I went in survival mode. Like, I had a child, and I had to work, and I had to take care of my baby. And after that, I want to say maybe 2 years in, that's when it got more, I can do this. But I still kept it a secret. A lot of the obstacles that I've overcome from being a teen mom until now, I'm not going to say life was easy, because even though I had a child at 16, put it like this, by the time I was 21, I already had 3 kids. So I had my second child at 19, and of course it's obstacles, because I had my daughter from when I got pregnant when I was 16, and then my other 2 are so close in age. I had one in pull-ups and I had one in Pampers. So, between daycares and working, and I was trying to go to college, and I was still penning books, with pen and paper. Although I wasn't doing anything with them yet, that my stories were just piling up. I overcame a lot of obstacles. It's a challenge, it's your life challenges. My book, Tasha's Got a Baby. In my catalog, that will always be one of my classics. Tasha was a victim of sexual abuse. I was also a victim of sexual abuse, and writing about Tasha's story in that aspect, it was like a release for me as well, because, that's just something that it's talked about more now than it was able to be talked about before. Like, that's just things that you just don't talk about. So a lot of her story with her sexual abuse and her postpartum depression, I wanted to touch on that because I have also experienced that. That's why I was able to dominate that part of her so well, because that is something that I definitely did experience. I had someone that was really close to me that also, she got infected with HIV, and that hit home for us. It was a group of us, and that hit home for us because it let us know, how real it is out here. That's when we started to, wow, HIV is like really real. And I wanted to touch bases on that because a lot of people just don't take it serious. So I was able to dominate that so well because I saw firsthand what that did to someone very close to us. Even Tasha's baby story, I wanted it to be impactful. I felt like the readers deserved a follow-up. How did this affect Lyric's life? She didn't really know who she was because they tried to hide everything. They tried to shelter her from her mother's life. So she struggled with, who am I? I know about my mom, but in Tasha's life was so hard. That's just something that they try to shelter her from. So I also wanted my kids, read that. I sheltered them from a lot of things. So that was important to me. And another motivation for me to write Tasha's story is because I have 5 daughters, and they didn't see half of what I saw growing up. They don't know what poverty is. They've never been to the projects. Like, that's a part of life they never. So they always been sheltered. And I wanted them to read this story. Like, I have to do this especially for my daughters because they need to know, like, you guys are blessed, because there's a dark side out there. And so I made my daughters read the story, and they cried. They cried, and everybody gave me their summary about it. I definitely think Tasha's story should be shared with young girls all over. I have a lot of people in the industry that advocates for Tasha's Got a Baby. If a reader asks, I never read a book by Author S.Yvonne, where should I start? 90% of the readers are gonna say, go read Tasha's Got a Baby. You'll never forget that story. So I was born in Hawthorne, California. My childhood though is Gardena, California. I was born here, and when I was 4 years old, my father was murdered in a drive-by shooting. And that was my mother's, that was the love of her life. And, if he wasn't here, she didn't want to be here. And then there was also that fear of, I can't raise my son, in California, like we got to get out of here. So that's how we transitioned to Florida. But a big part of my childhood is both places. I correlate a lot of my life in books. And then too, you have to have a hell of imagination as well. So, you got to tweak it, and, you're a writer. So, you make it interesting, and, you may throw drama in there. And Tasha's story is always going to be an impactful one. Because even when my friends read it, just from growing up and knowing what everyone went through and knowing everyone's story, and when you take it and you put it all into one, it's just like, wow.
Hi, I'm Janine of Imagine Consulting. I'm an editor, a writer, a reader. I just love written words. I love words. So the change I've seen of black romance in books before, when I was younger, to now, like we only had Zane, and that was it. There was no one else writing about sex in books like that.
Being a teen mom, what I learned is the first thing that the majority of people are going to do is they're going to count you out. I was in the 11th grade when I got pregnant, so I still had my senior year. I still graduated. I still went to homecoming. I still went to prom. When I walked the stage, my daughter was 1, and she was in the stands with my mother. That pushed me because I heard so much of I would not amount to anything. It's like they almost make you feel like your life is over. And if you're not a strong individual, you will start to believe that. And then I had another child at 19. So technically, you're still a teen mom. You're a teen mom, you had a child, then you have another child. And then you had and it wasn't planned for me to I think it was just a part of my trauma. So it wasn't planned, but neither here nor there. It just made me go harder. It made me want to change the foundation, even when it comes to my kids. Even though I had a love for this, if it wasn't for them, I'm not sure that I would go so hard in what I'm doing now. Although I have a passion for it and I love it. I don't even know if I should be saying this, but in Tasha's story, her abuser got killed. So it's just like, it's some type of justice, even though it's not like a real life thing. It's just like, it's therapy, it's a form of therapy. Like, it was a form of therapy. I would just say that. So when you incorporate certain trauma, even into your books, you can make it play out. Regardless of how certain things play out in life, when it comes to your books, you can make it play out in whatever way you want it to play out, in whatever way it's going to make you feel better, or it's all a release. Even if it's something you healed from, it's still all a release.
So you're using your books for healing?
Yeah, certain books. I wouldn't really say I am a mood writer. Because there's been a lot of colorful aspects of my life. And so all of my stories, I dig deep, I dig deep within. And it just depends on whose story I want to tell and what's the lesson behind this story. Every character is going to be different. Every character is going to have their own personality, but every character is going to relate to somebody out there. So it's just a matter of, I remember in my life at this point, this happened, or this is going on at this age, like an unbreakable bond with a thug. That was somewhat based on me and my two best friends. You know, that was a lot of things that in that moment in our lives, this is what we experienced, you know. I had a lot of inboxes about that one too. Like, I've been in Lulu's situation, I've been in this person's situation, I've been in this situation. And there's probably a lot of women that has been in all of those situations. So it just really depends.
I started my publishing company because I wanted to give back. I started my publishing company when it was Shalane Presents. I didn't even know shit about publishing. And I had some authors who were with me then, and they never left. They are the true definition of stay down until you come up. I want to say 85% of my publishing company started with brand new authors. They just knew they wanted to write. And I remember when I was a new author, and I knew just what I just wanted to write. So I opened up my team to help them.
What started the process into me wanting to publish, or how I even got there, was David Weaver. He was my publisher. He brought me into this world. And, you know, he just saw my potential. And he's like, you know, I think that you can do this. You know, I want to teach you this, this, and that. And so he did. And I went through a lot of trials with that because it was harder than what I thought. And it wasn't S.Yvonne Presents. It was Shalane Presents. And I realized I made a mistake there as well because I was branding myself as S.Yvonne the author. So when I'm branding Shalane Presents, it's like they did not know that the two were the same person. So my books were being supported, but then on this end, it's like, who is this person? Like, we don't know who this is. So then that was a transition. You know, I had to change everything over. So I went through years of, I started my publishing company, I want to say like 2017. And then I gave up. I gave up because it was hard. And I realized that I can't help other authors until I'm able to fully help myself. So when things changed for me, I picked the publishing company back up, and then it helped me to create best-selling authors under my brand. Right now, I'm representing 23 authors under S.Yvonne Presents.
Oh man, S.Yvonne, my publisher. She is, I really look up to her, like, as far as she's inspiring. Like, her story and all the books that she has written and the books that she continues to write, because she has this ambition about her that's like, you know, she can write a book in like literally 2-3 days. And I haven't gotten to that level yet. But just her love for this industry and for her craft, it really rubs off onto all of us, meaning like my pen sisters. Like, when we have our meetings, she's constantly on us, like giving us the tools that we need. Like, hey, you got to brand yourself, logo, networking, everything that we need, the tools to become better authors. That is what S.Yvonne does for us.
This industry is blossoming. It's going to continue to grow. We have some brilliant men and women doing the work. The women are just, the circle of sisters is amazing. All ages, all backgrounds, and their sharing is just phenomenal, and it's inspirational.
The journey of becoming a national best-selling author, it ain't as easy as it looks. I would say that. There was a lot of times that I felt like these readers don't see me. Like, I know I can pen a good story, but I don't have the fan base that I didn't have the loyal reader base yet. So there was a lot of trials there as well, because a lot of people think that because you're an author and you pen a book, that everybody's just supposed to buy your book, without realizing that you have to put hella work behind yourself. You have to go out there and get those readers, and you have to make them see you. Nobody's just gonna, you have to put in the work behind it. So once I realized that, it was just like a go. It was nonstop work. Like, I didn't care what it was, from marketing, from ads to gifting books, from whatever it took, going all around to all the book events, I did it all. And I think at one point I dropped like 11 books in 12 months. Like I was dropping those series back to back, back to back. And then when I dropped A Cold Winter with the Hot Boy, I think it was more so of the street lit side of it. Because if you ever saw that cover, it's like it represents it's a cold winter. It has the snow. The main character name was Snow, and he's very dark skinned with these crystal blue like eyes. But he's like a hot boy, like everyone wants him. But he's not a everyone wants me type of man. Like his level of standards and what he represents for himself. So I think once they saw that cover on the street lit side, and then they read the synopsis, and then I started putting out the visuals, it was just like, oh yeah. And then that was a 7-part series. Yeah. So that's when it just really took off. I define myself as a hood romance author, which is romance, which is urban. You're going to get a little bit of street lit. So I don't necessarily like to put myself in the bubble where it's just, oh, this right here is just street lit, or this is urban life, or urban, or this is, no, I'm going to get, my reader base knows that if they open one of my books, you're going to get some hood, you're going to get some romance, and you might get a little rough street lit in there somewhere too. But what I love the most about my stories and my storylines are none of them are the same, and each of them have a lesson in them. Because I'm not an author that writes books just to write them. Somewhere in the story is going to be a lesson. And for me, that's what it's all about.
We have stories on our bookshelves, like rappers have raps. There's no right and wrong way. You write how you write. You write when you write.
Okay, so with street lit books, it is a lot like gangster rap. And rappers do, not all of them, but rappers do take pieces of their life and they incorporate it into their raps. One of my favorite rappers actually is T.I. Majority of his albums, he's telling his life story, and his music is good, but he's speaking what he's been through. And then you have the rappers that they're rapping, but they never live like that. And you know, that's what people want to hear. So I completely understand that. And it is the same thing when it comes to the book industry. When it comes to a lot of the street lit, I would say especially with the men as well. When it comes to a lot of street lit, if you ever speak to them, a lot of it is their story. In our community, we don't look at it that way, you know, because we know what it is. But if you get a reader that's just strictly romance, or you get a reader that I only read children's books, I only like romance books, I only like softer covers, we definitely get counted out based on what they think it is.
And they were so gritty and raw. It was like, Sister Soldier was the teenage version, or the lighter the younger version. I shouldn't say lighter at all because it wasn't light. And then you had the other guys who were a little rougher. But now the stories are so much fuller in the urban romance, and it's a beautiful thing because it's evolved. I can see the evolution. So it was kind of like I saw it from then to now. I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm proud of everybody.
It probably is a way to change the stereotype around street lit, only because anything is possible. But there's also that part where why aren't street lit authors able to stay true to themselves? Why do you have to change who you are in order to get a certain type of support? And I think that plays a part in why we all go so hard to, you have to make them see you. You know, even if you don't change your covers and you just start sharing snippets of your book, or, you know, I think that there's definitely ways to pull them in. The only way that I would think of changing that stereotype is pretty much changing the covers, or changing the slang, or changing the way the story is being delivered, you know, toning it down a little bit. But in a sense, that's still like, well, you know, you're not being true to yourself. I'm gonna always stay true to myself.
Okay.
I want to always stay true to myself. Me personally, I've never changed up my writing style to be like anybody else. If anything, I always try to possess growth. I can see the growth from my later books, my older books, to my books now, because as an author, you always have room to grow. But I don't ever see me changing. I don't want to write like anybody else. I don't want to deliver like anybody else. And I've grown such a strong reader base that they know what they're going to get from me, and they also advocate for me. So I always plan on staying true to myself. Our reader base is constantly growing. Believe it or not, the age limit for our reader base, we're able to see. If you use certain platforms, it tells you what percentage of men, women, what age group. I have a lot of readers who are up in age, and you wouldn't even believe, what are you doing reading this kind of book? But they actually read those kind of books. I just think that if you're an urban fiction reader, it doesn't matter about age. It's not on you, it's in you. So it doesn't matter. My mom is what, 50 something, and she reads, and these are the type of books that they read. I don't see her 5 years from now saying, I'm not going to read urban anymore, because if you love it, you love it. Growing up in the hood, we got into a lot of trouble. So of course, you grow up fighting. You grow up on Halloween throwing eggs at houses and cars and pranking each other and going to other neighborhoods, because it's just a part of growing up in the hood. It's just like that. So a lot of my books, they're based around the hood, because that's what I can relate to. I'm not an author that, if I write about a doctor or something, then I would have to go research that, you know? It's certain things. If I'm writing about an attorney, yeah, certain things like that, I will go research. But a lot of my books are relatable, and unless it's that aspect, but anything else, I don't have to go and Google how to live in the hood, what happens in the hood, how to handle yourself in the hood, because that's what I come from. So in Florida, I grew up in a small town called Enriches, which is now called West Park. And we were a close-knit community. Like, we may be beefing with each other, but if another hood came to our hood and they wanted to get it down, then everybody friends today. That's just what it is. Like, that's just cold. And then we gonna go back to not being friends after we handle this business. But it was just like that. It was fun, you know, going to the storehouse lady and buying pickle eggs and hot sausage and freeze cups, and going around and, you know, what do they call it? Nigga knocking on doors and running. And it was like that, you know, everybody on their bikes and riding to the Boys and Girls Club and our Optimist Park on the corner. And before the street lights come on, everybody better get home, because you know your mama not having it. But the hood was fun. I know people who grew up in the suburbs, and it was just like, what did y'all do? And it was just like, but the hood, it has a lot of, you know, you're gonna get, you know, police and, you know, stuff like that. But as far as growing up, I don't regret growing up in the hood, because the hood made me.
What's up, y'all? So we back with another. No.
A lot of the terminology that you use that's in the books comes from your hood.
Yeah, we call that our slang. You know, because if you're writing a book, I wish I could give an example off the top of my head, but You can't write a book and then the man is supposed to be like, he's telling somebody else, if you don't stop what you're doing, I'm going to beat you up. Who says that in the hood? Like, we don't say that. So you have to talk like, you know, this is our slang. Like, if that's what you're writing about, make it make sense. How would they say it in the hood? Our hood? They ain't gonna say, I'm gonna beat you up. And I'm like, you gonna stop playing on my top or I'm gonna beat your ass.
Okay. You refer to police officers in your books as dicks.
The dicks. The dicks are coming, and they did put us in the back of a paddy wagon before.
We're apart, but I pretend to be.
And in some of my books, I will focus on issues with the moms a little more, just because growing up, I had friends who sometimes I would think that my mom was just tripping, and then I'm like, but dang, this person mom, you could be out 10:30, 11, 12 o'clock, your mom don't even call and see if you okay. Like, I know what it's like to have people around me who moms just didn't care. I also know what it's like to deal with men that has mommy issues and inflict that upon people because they have mommy issues. So I touched a lot on mommy issues in the books too, because people don't want to talk about it. But I'm speaking on what I have seen and what I have witnessed, and not per se I had a good mom, but I know what it's like for people to have a mom that's just not good. And I always tell my daughters when they think I'm tripping, so would you suppose that I just didn't say anything? That I don't question you, I let you do whatever, I don't give you a curfew, just like that. Just don't care. How would that make you feel? Because it's moms out there like that. And then they think about it and it hurt their feelings even thinking about it, like, the transition where they're talking about moms more. And, you know, it went from the dads not being shit to the moms not being shit. And I think it all plays a role in the same thing with sexual abuse. These are things that you don't touch on. These are things that are unspoken. These are things that we don't talk about. But in reality, in life, it's out there. It's happening like that. It's just before stuff like that, it wasn't touched on. And I think that a lot of authors is being a realist in their books when it comes to stuff like that. It's not just the men, it's the women as well. So it kind of took away from a lot of the male bashing, you know, because it's not just the men. I think it's just easier to talk about now. Starla Night is Guilty Pleasures of a Boss, a billionaire love story. And that is the story of a young girl, and her name is Starla Night, and it's her trials and her tribulations. And I think it's an awesome book. Now, Starla's story, I don't know anybody who personally cuts themselves, but I do know how I've felt at times and her thought process. The only difference with her is she was a cutter, but I was able to dominate her thoughts because that's something that I have experienced. The twist was, this is how she makes herself feel better, and this is what she overcomes. But I'm able to dominate a lot of her thought process, even when it comes to her doing that to herself, just based off of just life experiences and just, you know, I know how I have felt at times. Honestly, once I put my fingers to my keypad, I allow each character to tell me their story. I always tell anybody, I tell my authors, look, when you write your books, you're an actor. You become one with your character. You bond with your character. So whatever POV you're writing about, you are no longer who you are. You are that person, and you have to become that person so you could dominate that person's story. So you have to allow yourself to feel their emotions and everything that they're going through, because if you're not feeling them, how do you expect your readers to feel them? I don't know if you noticed, but in my books, I like to address, that's what I mean by I like to write books that I write hood romance, but I also like to write stuff that's meaningful. Like somebody is gonna get something from this, or maybe this story can help heal somebody. If I can't pen a story that is relatable or that I feel can help someone somewhere, then I don't want to write it. I don't feel like I'm giving an impact anywhere. And 90% of my stories, I have readers that will email me, hop in my inbox, like, oh my God, I feel for her. Like, I know what she was going through, or, oh, thank you so much for writing this book. That just helped me a lot. So I take pride in that.
If I could describe this moment that we're in black writing, black romance, and I think it's momentum. Means everybody's moving with momentum, and that's a beautiful thing. And you can only win.
I realize the power of the words in my books and how it impacts people, and that's the point of doing it. Depending on who's reading it, I always go into it with a mind that the right person is going to read this book. And it's going to be more than one person, but this book is going to be in the hands of somebody who really, really, really need it, because it's so many people that are reading your books. So out of all these people, everybody's life wasn't perfect. Everybody is having some type of trial and error. Everybody is experiencing something. So I always go into it with whatever I'm writing about is somebody out there experiencing this. I'm finally comfortable. The mother that I am today, oh, I think it's more than one word. I mean, I am an awesome mother. Like, I'm a damn good mother. And everything that I've been through up until now, it made me the mother that I am to my children. And I'm at peace with that. As a writer, all I would say, it ain't over yet. Like, I'm still coming. I got a lot of work to do, and it's on. Yeah, now that I done told y'all my business, y'all better go buy my books.
If someone was entering to your catalog, the first book you would tell them to read?
Tasha's Got a Baby, because you ain't going to never forget Tasha. I want to go into film. I actually want to put Tasha on Tubi. I want to start there. And we're just going to see how it plays out. So I was just recently in New Orleans for the 2023 Literary Gem Awards. I was nominated in a few categories. I'm proud to say that I was one of the Reader's Choice Awards winners. I was also the Literary Diamond winner. But what was very special to me was I actually also won one of the biggest awards of the night, which was the Literary Gem of the Year award, which I was not expecting, but I'm very grateful for it, because I do go over and beyond, not just for my team, but I'm an advocate for new authors. I'm always helping, like, and I don't expect anything in return. And so I do a lot, and I don't do it for anything, and you don't know who's watching and so to be acknowledged for that award, especially for all the hard work that I have been putting in. We're all awesome. We're all literary gems, but that really meant a lot to me. Even if I don't ever win that particular award again, I will never forget. In 2023, I was the first Literary Gem of the Year award recipient, and I thank everyone for that. If I could look at the 16-year-old S.Yvonne, I would look at her and tell her, you are not your mistakes. That's exactly what I would tell her. I tell myself that every day. So I want to thank everybody, all of my readers who's tuning in, who's watching this. I definitely want to shout out Girlfriends Unfiltered. Yoka, she's here with me right now behind the camera. I really do appreciate everybody, especially who's been riding with me. This has definitely been a journey. I'm excited. Like I said, I told y'all a lot of my business, but it is what it is. I never open up. I'm not one of those who open up, and I actually feel good about opening up to give you all a little more of me, because that's definitely something that I have never done. And I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, sis. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.